Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to our global audience. We'd like to welcome you to BEMI Global, a safe place where you can authentically keep it real and be yourself. We'd like to inform our listeners that BEMI Global is establishing a social platform that gives everyday people an opportunity to tell their story in a very transparent and vulnerable way. And so we're looking forward to actually building a bridge of connection by bringing you guys weekly podcasts. And we are so excited to say, welcome to the launching of season one, BEMI Podcast. So we have a special guest today that represents our community by the name of Rosalyn Thomas. And
Hello,
we are,
everybody.
yeah, we're so excited to have her. She is basically going to bring us on a journey of a very real, transparent story of her life with a focus on brokenness and forgiveness, and how she actually went through the good and bad and ugly journey of that process, but how she also landed on the other side of that process on a very firm foundation in a very mentally healthy way. So, welcome, Rosalind. So excited to have
Thank you.
you.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here. It's an honor and a privilege to be able to share my story because I know everybody that has a story,
Mhm.
and I think everybody's story can help somebody. It's almost like each one reach one type of deal
Absolutely.
for me, the way I look at it. So I just, hope that, what I'm going to share in my time will be helpful to somebody,
Mhm.
that may be either going through a brokenness in their life or struggling with forgiving
Mhm.
others or
Mhm.
whatever the case is. I just believe that somebody is going to get something that'll be beneficial to them. So I'm really glad to be here to share.
Absolutely. So, our audience are going to be intently listening. Just want to give them a disclaimer that as we go through this journey with this very season one, first episode, that sometimes the journey of our discussion could become very transparent. It could become very vulnerable. It could even get pretty raw. But, that's the way that we actually build a connection because we're keeping it that kind of real. And so we're going to just go ahead and pass the baton to you and just kind of flow back and forth and let you just begin the journey because I think you really wanted to lay a foundation for us in that area of brokenness.
Yes, yes. I mean, when I think about brokenness, I number one, I really didn't know what brokenness was. I knew what dysfunction was,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't really know what brokenness was on a personal level. I do recall when I let me say it this way. When I think about brokenness, now that I know what it is,
Mm-hmm.
I think about my parents. I
Mm-hmm.
think about my dad said he was 12 kissing my mom.
Mm-hmm.
They was 12 kissing. They got pregnant with their first daughter, my sister, at 15 and 16, and had her at 16 and 17. So when I think about brokenness, I think about them, children, trying to raise children.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not having, my mom didn't have her mom. She died at when my mom was like two,
Mm-hmm.
so my mom didn't have her mom. Um, but she had grandparents, and
Mm-hmm.
even my dad's mom was like a mom to her. So she had support. But when I just think about that, not having her mom at such an early age and
Mm-hmm.
being, I can only imagine her brokenness personally,
Unanswered questions.
Yeah, a
We can
lot of
go to,
unanswered
right?
questions, I'm sure. And so I go back to my parents because, you know, um, they were to me the ones that was living that broken life.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just watching as a kid. But in watching, you pick up stuff too.
Right.
And I just have this. thing that I'm looking at in brokenness, me personally, because like I said, when I didn't know what brokenness was, I knew what low self-esteem was, and I had it at another level. And I know that low self-esteem led me in some places that were not good for me at all. You know, to me, when you have low self-esteem, you have the tendency to allow people to treat you in a kind of way, you know, kind of talk to you in a kind of way, you shrug it off because you already don't feel good about you. So if you don't feel good about you, you kind of don't care, if I can use that word, how other people feel about you. You just doing the thing. You just in
Just
whatever
existing.
for whatever reason that's pushing you. And so I just know that that low self-esteem was very real to me in my high school days.
So if you don't mind, just to insert here, as you're going through this journey, obviously you built, in hindsight, right? You identified the root cause of where this brokenness started with your parents. Understanding that, you know, they were doing exactly the best of what they knew how to do.
Yep.
Even if it was broken, they were giving their best at it. And with them having kids, you, your sister, you know, and other siblings, you
It
guys,
was 4 of us by my mom and my
Yeah.
dad,
So
3
you-
girls and a boy.
yeah, so you guys just basically started, you know, modeling the environment that you were in. So
Yeah.
like you said, I think there's a quote that, I don't know if you want to even say that now, where the brokenness feeds brokenness, or
Yeah,
it's
that came down the
down the
line
line.
from my ex-husband. He called me one day and said, Roz, you know what I found that hurt people, broke people break people, and free people. And I thought that was very for him to say. And so then he ended it with, are you free? And I told him yes.
Yeah.
You know, and he knows a little bit about my story. There's a lot that people don't know in my
Right.
family, my ex-husband, you know, because I kind of just I kept a lot, I held a lot, but that's how when I got into the alcohol scene and the drug scene, that's how I handled holding on to pain or navigating through pain or whatever. That's how I did it.
So let me get you back to just the journey from, you know, your young childhood to teenage years, and just let you continue to take us on that journey.
Well,
Understanding you were in brokenness and you were in low self-esteem
yes.
from a mental health perspective.
Yeah. Well, the low self-esteem, like I said, it didn't really become vivid to me until my teenagers. I saw some stuff, but I didn't equate it, you know, like that. But our family was broken apart. So my dad went one way, my mom went another way, but things happened and we had to end up, you know, with my dad for about 4 or 5 years. Yeah, a lot happened before I got to high school. And so I don't.
So take us down memory lane, if you don't mind. Take us down memory lane of some of those details, because that could pretty much probably help our listeners that may have had a similar experience or an experience in a different way, but they can relate to it.
Yeah, well, as I said, my mom and my dad, they separated early. And so my dad, I mean, it was like, I know they both did the best they could, but to me, it was just very dysfunctional in terms of um, their relationship with us.
Okay.
It was just kind of strange how we didn't we didn't get a chance to grow together with them.
Okay.
They were young and a lot happened. I know that there was a lot of people on my mom's dad's side of the family, my grandfather, that were alcoholics. And so that happened with my mom.
Okay.
And because of that, we had to be separated, once again. I mean, the separation first started with my mom and my dad, then it started with us.
And your
And so,
mom.
we had to leave my mom for a little while. And so she can get the help she needed. And she did. And in the process of being with my dad and, the person that he was with, it was different because she had children and he had children. So it was the four of us. And I think three of them, and then she had two more that were by my dad. So it was some kind of a journey in trying to be in a place where you really don't know, because like I didn't know her and her kids. All I knew is my mom was sick and needed help, and she was getting what she needed, and we had to go with that.
Right. So now you're being introduced to this blended family.
Yeah.
And now as kids, did you feel embraced? Did you feel rejected? Did you feel what was that experience like?
I felt like I was in an overwhelming place. Like I felt like she did the best she could for her children, but to allow my dad to bring his four children into her world, like I honor her. Okay. I do. I honor her, because not many people can do that, but I felt it was an overwhelming situation. I mean, I was a kid. I was like 6 when I met her. But it was, to me, that's how I felt. It was an overwhelming household. It's like you could feel the it wasn't like peaceful.
Right.
Like I didn't feel peace that I would have been able to equate with at 6 years old. I wanted to be with my mom. Well, I wanted to be with my mom and my dad, but because they couldn't be together, so now I can't be with them. So I'm doing this kid thing, But yeah, I just felt like it was very overwhelming. I think she did the best she could do in her position. And then she already had 3 children, but then she had 2 more children by my dad. So now it's 9 of us. You know what I'm saying? Right. So to me, that can be very overwhelming for anybody. And to me, I think she did a good job, the very best she could. Blended families aren't easy. I've learned a lot about blended families since I've been an adult. And, you have to think about it. I've learned you have to kind of think about it from a child's point of view.
Yeah. And that's
because, I used to always say, you know what? The mother can go get another husband. The father can go get another wife. But who do the kids get? Who do they go get? You know what I'm saying? We don't have any alternatives. We're kind of, if I can use the word, stuck. Yeah, we bouncing back and forth. Bouncing back and forth. So
that's where I want you to kind of live, though, because I think it's important. You bring up a really valid point that maybe we don't think about all the time. Is we understand that separation took place. The wife found someone else. The husband found someone else, but the kids are stuck in the middle.
Very much.
Want you to live in that place for a little bit from the kids' perspective. of telling us your journey through that.
Well,
I understand it was emotionally overwhelming. I understand, that's a summary. But if you can just kind of just walk us through that process leading us to your teenage years, your high school years, and choices you made because you were stuck in the middle.
yeah.
You were in a broken place. There was dysfunction that took place, but now give voice to that child of what that child was experiencing, what the choices the child began to make, and the path that led you on. Share that with our audience.
Well, I think at that point in my life, because I wanted my mom and my dad together, I didn't have any high expectations for myself. I didn't, I'm like, well, they didn't make it, So I didn't have high expectations. I wanted to be I think even when I was running track, because I ran track for a little while in the upper grade center, I think 6th through 8th grade. And for me, the running, it was like I was running for my life, but I was running track and it was fun to me. But when you're a kid, you don't equate, like I look at things different about what I did. So that's why, my journey, I'd be like, man, okay, so I was running track. That's good, but it's like I did it not to just have a sport. There was a part of me that wanted to run away. I wanted to run for real, because it was things got a little tense with all of us in the same household. And so, as I get to that place of running track, that was a freedom for me. That was a freeing for me just to run. I just that helped me a lot. I never saw myself like being without my mom, and so while mom was getting the help she needed, which was a good thing, she needed the help, she got the help. And so we began, the four of us, we began to ride the bus from my dad's to where my mom was staying when she finally, got some things together. And so then my mom was, in a position where she was going to find a space where she could have her 4 kids back. And that happened. But I also noticed when that happened, she still needed an outlet, because she's still this young parent that happened to have an alcohol problem. She was an alcoholic, and so I think I believe her out was bowling. And she worked at the hospital, she bowled, but while she was bowling, I guess everybody at their own level, her children were being mischievous. So I lost my excuse me, I lost my virginity at 14. And it was that thing in itself was kind of devastating for me, because I learned the new thing, but we broke up. So I'm thinking, man, we done did it. We ain't gonna stay together. And it didn't happen. We was 14. So then I go to high school. And that's when I really could see the low self-esteem. But it very well could have even took place when I lost my virginity, because I gave it up to him thinking we were going to be girlfriend and boyfriend, and it didn't happen.
So what I'm hearing as I'm just outside listening to your story, you're still a young girl very innocent, pure, and getting intimate with someone, having sex with someone at a young age, you gave a part of yourself away.
Yep.
And it was authentically. It wasn't, you didn't have no agenda behind it. You were really sharing love. And then all of a sudden, the result of sharing that produced something different than what you even expected. So mentally, that has to be a mental health disturbance happening inside you, just trying to process that. Why are we not together?
Right.
And now here we go. You're having once, I'm just going to call it layer one,
Okay.
or let's just say it's layer 5, because you still had your parents that were dysfunctional and broken. They inherited something themselves,
Yeah.
and they began to behave a certain way that brought new life in to the picture, that they inherit a certain environment with dysfunction and brokenness. Um, and so you're just learning, those pieces. Then you got another separation with your mother. And now you found someone that you really care about. And now I gave a piece of something very valuable of myself away. And it's still not producing the
Not
fruit
enough.
that I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So I'm only echoing that to the audience, because I know you're going to build upon that so we can see the story and the journey and how it impacts us mentally, emotionally, physically. So I'll let you continue.
Well, I didn't have a good look for myself.
No
That's why I was
self-love.
like, that low self-esteem affected me at a whole nother level. I looked at myself differently.
Yeah.
I heard some things about myself differently, and I was okay with it, and I shouldn't have been. But when this low self-esteem, I let that thing play out literally throughout my entire high school years.
Okay.
And 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 when I think about my mom, I just have some, uh, remembrances of her, how she cleaned thoroughly, how she baked the cake and the dog got up on the table and bit into the cake. And, there was moments that I thought about that. And I was like, man, why her and dad can't make it? You know what I'm saying? As a kid, you just be like, So I think that watching her, she was kissing at 12, at pregnant at 15 and 16, had the first baby at 16 and 17. So when I did it at 14, I was like, well, maybe, we might do something. We might, be girlfriend and boyfriend for real. We might make it, or we might,
Okay.
so my mind wasn't, like I said, I didn't have a high expectation because my mom and my dad was separated, but who knows? So, but the low self-esteem showed up at another level. And so when that happened, I noticed I began to let people talk to me any kind of way, treat me any kind of way. Now I'm full blown having sex with everybody that became quote unquote a boyfriend. And so that led me to age 15, and I met, I'm going to call gentleman number 2.
Okay.
And I noticed that even though I had low self-esteem, I think I was I was dependable, right? I saw that I was dependable and I could be committed
To others.
But I wasn't for me. I believe if I could tell my younger self, you can't be dependable for others if you can't depend on you for you. You can't be committed to others if you can't be committed to you and your healthy lifestyle, right? And
That's
I
good.
wasn't, you know what I'm saying? I wasn't. So I kept on that journey, and I noticed when I got with this young man, he was in the street. I'm just thinking about the people I attracted.
Mm-hmm.
The people I attracted
Mm-hmm.
to myself. It was like they were broken too. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because I met him. He didn't know who his dad was. His mom had 10 children. And I think he was number from the top. He might have been number 4 or 5.
Okay.
So, I'm doing a thing with him, and then he starts going to jail, for whatever it was, different things. But instead of me finding a new boyfriend, I stayed committed to him.
Dependable and committed.
That was me.
Mm-hmm.
So I stayed committed to him, and then I started working. I met him at 15. I started working at 16 at the hospital my mom worked at, because I kind of wanted to be like my mom. Mm-hmm. Without the alcohol,
yes,
and the people treated her a certain kind of way. She had such a big heart, but people treated her like a certain way, and that bothered me. So I wanted to be like her, because to me, she was dependable, committed, worked hard. So I wanted that, but I didn't want the alcohol, the men. I didn't want that, right? So I ended up getting a job where my mom worked. But I noticed at 16, I started doing drugs. Like, I was on the north side of Chicago, and I was hanging with some people. Now, mind you, with gentleman number 2, because gentleman number 1 is the one I lost my virginity to. Mm-hmm. Gentleman number 2 is the one I thought I fell in love with. So when I got the job and he was in jail, I just started kind of messing with somebody else. Gentleman number 3. Mm-hmm. And so he
ain't doing drugs.
Well, yes, I would, because I'm doing this whole low self-esteem, but I'm still having pain in some areas. And the way I dealt with my pain is how my mom did, drinking. But then I took it another level because I started doing drugs.
Okay.
I was doing drugs. And the only reason I know today that I didn't shoot heroin is because I was scared of needles, but I snorted. There's things that I did that was no good for me, but it was helping me hide in my pain. Yeah. Like I wasn't open about my low self-esteem. I just showed up. And how I showed up, I'm sure some people was like, oh yeah, she a easy one type of deal.
And how you coped.
Correct.
Showed up and coped.
Right. Okay. So now he's out of jail, and I'm doing this thing with the guy I met at my job. That wasn't good.
This gentleman
because that's gentleman number 3. Because gentleman number 2 was a leader / he could do some things. He was I don't know how to label him, but I will tell you, he was fearless. I'll put it like that. And sometimes when you're a leader and you're fearless, you can like overtake people's whatever. Like he could tell people what to do and they do it type of deal, right?
But the way he was doing that was through just being in the streets.
Yes. Okay. Yes. So, with gentleman number 2 going back and forth to jail, I'm doing these things. Okay. And so I finally stopped with gentleman number 3, and it was just me and gentleman number 2. And so I really thought I loved him. That's how I felt in my young brain about what love is, because I didn't know, because my mom and my dad didn't make it. So what did I know? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, well, they got kids. Did they love each other? Because they didn't make it. So whatever I thought love was, I had it for gentleman number 2.
I hope our audience is taking a liking to our special guest story on brokenness and forgiveness. Over the next 4 weeks, she will continue to take us on a journey in which she's sharing her story on how she overcame some of the darkest and most challenging moments in her life. Be on the lookout for weekly drops every Thursday. And remember, BEMI Global is a safe place where you can authentically keep it real and be yourself. See you next time.